Hey guys, it's Ricardo here with Coldwell Banker on 30A. If you're wanting to know what the top 5 places to buy on 30A right now, I'm going to give you an in-depth view, whether it's the most affordable, luxury, best beach accesses, or even the best restaurants if you're a foodie. I'm going to break it all down in this video, and if you want to visit our office, we're off in Coldwell Banker, off Draper J, or simply contact us via our YouTube channel. Number 1 for me, everyone wants to know what's the most affordable place to buy on 30A? And the reason being is because the average price point is $2 million. For most of America, that's unattainable. I know this. So for people that still want to get a slice of heaven, we can still find them options around 400 to 900,000. Now you're probably wanting to know, what is 400 or 900,000 going to get me on 30A? There aren't many options. And you're 100% right, there's not. But if you look at this area, or maybe these two areas that are about 5 minutes apart, you're gonna notice that 30A West, known as Blue Mountain Beach, and the area that touches Shunk Gully, there's condos in the central square near all amenities. So you get a private beach access, there's food. You may even know of a place called Shunk Gully. If you type it up, you'll see that the square, there's condos on Laurel, Hamilton, and there's also ones right next to it. Now, if you can afford to go big, there's non-private condos in that same community that are Gulf front that cannot be rented. But we're talking about 3 to 6 million. So we want to come back to reality right now. And at the 4 to 900, if I'm shopping today for best value, you need to look at Blue Mountain Beach, more specifically the Villages, Ventana Dunes, Gulfview Heights. Now, you're not going to have a dedicated beach access, which is a downside, and it's also a reason why it's also a lot cheaper. But if you want this beach access or deeded rights, you're going to have to pay into it with the price or an association. Given that these 3 little neighborhoods, you can find a single family home, brand new construction, sometimes as little as 750 to 1.1 million. That is extremely affordable in our area. You know, that's like a 3-2, 1,300 to 1,800 square feet, anywhere between 2010 to about 2021. And you may have some cottages here and there, different year built, but overall, you're gonna have a really nice luxury vinyl plank. If you decide to go a little bit higher, you may get nice wooden engineered floors, quartz countertops, shaker cabinets. The lots are gonna be a little bit smaller, so you're most likely gonna have a community pool or a place where you can gather around for restaurants. So for example, anyone that lives at Gulfview Heights, Ventana Dunes, the Villages, or even off the streets in that little strip near Draper J, they're most likely gonna go to Mimo's to go eat, or maybe Basmati. The most common place, or even what everyone knows in Blue Mountain Beach, is gonna be Cowgirl Kitchen. So you can kind of see how these communities are all tied via the price points. As we start to go a little bit further away, it starts to become a little bit more unaffordable. So if we want to start looking at the 1 to 2 million and what gets us in Blue Mountain and Shunk Gully, you're going to get a brand new house, or you're going to be able to choose and pick, which is not often readily available. And because we're more in a buyer's market, you're going to find options around 700 to about 800 a foot. Now you're gonna say, wow, Ricardo, that's really expensive. And you're right, it's a higher price per square foot. But at the peak of the market, you couldn't find anything less than 900 to 950 a foot, regardless of where it was. So we've had quite the adjustment. And another good thing about these areas, people are pricing under appraisal value. I know of a development, 30 Blue. I've sold there. At the peak, we sold it for 1.2 million. There's a place active in there right now for 875,000. If that's not an adjustment, I don't know what is. And if this isn't a buyer's market, a buyer of opportunity, I'm not sure what that is either. So if you're in the sideline and you've been looking at 30A in general, and you want an area of opportunity that's affordable, Blue Mountain Beach is gonna be my #1 pick. And I highly recommend you look there because people wanna get rid of their properties or they wanna move on. Number 2, I still think this is one of the best areas in all of 30A, and I'm going to tell you why. No, it's not Seaside. It's watercolor. The reason that I love watercolor over Seaside or even Grayton Beach, it's because the value's there. It's a high-end luxury neighborhood that's connected to outdoor activities, trails, canoes, things to do. I don't even live there, and I hang out there more than where I live, okay? If I could choose anywhere, that's where I would want to be. The people that you meet, the atmosphere, the quality of construction, and the most beautiful thing about it is, if you don't have your own pool, you're not satisfied, you have the clubhouse, which overlooks the water with several private pools, where people will go up to you and say, hey, what do you need? Do you want a drink? Here's some food options. Everything is 100% accommodated to your needs. And there's only 3 communities, actually only 2 communities that really offer that in my eyes. I'm gonna name drop the next one towards the end of the video, but this community itself in watercolor is to none. The HOA fees are not absorbently high like the other communities. They take care of the common grounds. And the beautiful thing about this community is that everyone on 30A is coming here to host events. So for November, you're having Thanksgiving. So a lot of the vendors are coming out. There's people painting to showcase their work. It's a whole venue. They do the same thing for Christmas and New Year's. This area is not gonna change, and I've been here since 2008 and I've seen it. It's stayed consistent. Even right now in this market, watercolor sales, yes, they're down, and sure, we've adjusted, but people are still buying a $4, $5, $6 million product. 3 days ago in watercolor, someone just spent $10 million on a brand new construction home on one of the largest lots available in the entire area. So as you can see, even when we're market dependent and things aren't on the up and up, people are still spending the money and acquiring a product which they're gonna hold for a generation, or they'll hold it and rent it out for a long period of time for tax purposes. You know, so this is a great community that has it all. You can get the rental income, you'll get the appreciation, the family's gonna be happy, there's a lot of things to do, and it's your perfect escape. It's not just a beach house that you're buying, you're literally buying in to a list of activities in a high-end community, which is plenty of very affluent people that are probably gonna share similar aligned interests, such as health, quality investments, life at the beach, family, things that will really connect you further than just a home. Another thing that I love about watercolor is that if you're gonna purchase, it's gonna be a little bit expensive. A condo, for example, that's 800 square feet to about 1,000 square feet. Don't be surprised to spend about 1.2 to 1.5 million. Yes, you heard me right. It's over 1,000 a square foot. So the entry level is gonna be about 1.5 to 2.5 if you wanna be in the phase 3 to about 7 of watercolor, which is closer to the town square off Western Lake. That's gonna be entry. Now the cottages in that same area, about 1,300 to 1,800 square feet, are gonna go around 2.1 to 2.5 million. So these cottages, depending on how renovated they are, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say I have a cottage here on Silver Laurel Way, right? It's in the town's, it's a little bit further away from the town square, so you're not gonna pay as high of a premium. It's a little bit further away from the beach access, but it's central enough to where it's a 2 to 3 minute golf cart ride to the beach, public, things to do. By no means is this a bad location in watercolor, but it's not like you're on the lake, overlooking with no obstructed views, you know, with your own path. It does not compare to that. That is the upper echelon product. But let's say, hey, I want a cottage. What does it take, Ricardo? You know, what's the number? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 scenarios here. If it's outdated, that cottage is probably gonna be around the 1,800 mark, anywhere between about 1.7 to about 1.95 million outdated, which means you're gonna put some money into it. And then you're gonna say, hey, how much money am I gonna put into an investment like this? Well, if you wanna know my honest opinion, even though it's small, it's probably gonna still be around 150 to 200,000. And that's more conservative because you really wanna go high end on these finishes because you're gonna get your money back, right? So let's say, hey, I got it for 1.9 million. I'm gonna put in 200,000 for cosmetics, and then let's say tie the package of 250,000, right? Furnishings, everything done to the T. Probably gonna be one of the nicer homes in there for the cottages. You're probably looking at a resale value of at least 2.55 to 2.75 million if you do it correctly. So you can see what the spread is on your money immediately. If you're paying all cash, that's an immediate 10 to 15% return. If you're doing financing, which is anywhere between 20% down, let's just use a general term, on 1.9 million, that's 380,000 plus your closing costs. You're probably looking at 420,000 all in. Let's see, 425,000, right, as your initial investment, plus the 250 if you're financing, right? So you're all in around 675,000 if you're financing at 20% down, plus the renovation costs and something that needs work, to have a resale value of 2.55 million to about 2.65 million, very conservatively. I probably wouldn't list less than 2.75. You can see that your cash on cash return with financing is well over 40 to 30% return on the equity side. And most likely reason why you're buying here is for tax purposes. So you could do some write-offs here, even though it's not producing in the rentals, because you want to use it more. You already made your money on the equity, and you can take that profit when you decide to do a realized gain, which is what a lot of people do in this area. They buy a product that they really like or that they can turn into themselves, and they'll put a lot of money into it. They don't care about renting it. Sure, they'll rent it out here and there to offset some things, but they're not going to try to have a 60 or 70% occupancy. And when you sell this, the next buyer is not going to say, hey, show me your numbers and how occupied was it. Yes, it's somewhat important, but it's not a pure investment property like that. It is a trophy asset that a lot of people value. Now that you know that an old product from 1.8 to 2 million acquisition can be worth about 2.5 to 2.75, and your numbers in the middle in watercolor, I want to take you off to the top of the market in watercolor. The $4 to $7 million price point, and sometimes if you're lucky, and these properties do not come on the market very often, you'll see something between 8 to 10 million, and when I say they don't come on the market very often, I'm saying it may be as long as 2 to 3 years. So if you see something that meets your entire criteria, and it's a large lot size, with a lot of privacy, you can't be built on because you're right next to the lake or the forest, I would snatch that up, because someone certainly is, and these properties are still going in as little as 30 to 60 days in this price point. Cash, no financing, cash. So the market is still there. So if we're looking at 4 to 7 million, I want to be out off Western Lake or any of the lake views. The reason I love this is because the houses sit on bigger lots and they back up to the lake, which means that you don't have a neighbor in front of you, and you're forever going to have a view of the water, which if you're in watercolor, from August, more specifically September, October, they have the best sunsets that you can possibly see on 30A. So that area itself, you're gonna get a larger lot size, you're probably gonna have a private pool, you're gonna have a grill area, you may even have a jacuzzi, and then those homes are so big that they have 2 to 3 outdoor decks that are fully screened in, and sometimes they even go through the property depending on the size and the footprint. So it's truly phenomenal craftsmanship and finishes. These finishes in these properties are not locally resourced materials. Some are being shipped up from very high quality internationally or even nationally, because these owners want to make sure that the finishes is there for the resale and that they're holding a quality product. Number 3 on my list, and this may shock you, number 3 is going to be more of an investment buy, and I think that is Seacrest Beach, and I'm going to tell you why. Seagrove is extremely expensive, very expensive, especially the side that touches Seaside to right before Seacrest. So if you're a local to 30A, if you are on your bike or you're driving, if you pass Black Bear leaving Seaside and you drive 1 more minute past Seaside, you'll notice that's Old Seagrove. Lots there are going for about 1.1 to 1.5 million, and that's not very big. It's for like a 0.1 to a 0.13 acre lot, and that's not golf views. That's towards the very end. If you want something closer to the front for that same size, you're gonna pay 2.5 to 3 million. Yeah, so you're paying a house for the price of dirt. That's how expensive it is. And the goal in that area would be to resell anywhere between 5.5 to 7.5 million, right? So not everyone can do that. So this is why I'm saying Seacrest is my number 3 location. If you had to take a guess, how much do you think a lot would be? A 1/4 acre or even 0.2 acres, which is still bigger than what I said in Old Seagrove. Half the price. It's half the price. You can find a lot in Seacrest for about $450 to about $600, between 0.15 to 0.3 acres, which means that I can build a home with a footprint anywhere between 2,500 square feet to 3,500 square feet, and anywhere between on a cost to build of about 300, 350 a square foot. So you can see that you're all in well under your resale price. So that area is making a lot of sense for people, because I can buy a lot for very affordable, if I want to make my own, and I can resell it for about 2.2 to 3 million. And there's even some older homes, if you don't want to do the building process, which you can very well find anywhere between 1.3 million to 1.8 million that come with a private pool, right? And there's no HOA here. So it's not like you're gonna have a ton of costs like some of these communities or buy-in fees. Pretty much what you get is what you pay for. And no one's gonna come in and say, hey, do this or pay me this. No, you're the owner. So I think that area is becoming very attractive, especially in this market, because we've seen an adjustment too. We saw Seacrest start to peak because it's right before Alice Beach. If you go 3 more minutes, you're gonna hit Alice Beach from Seacrest, which I think is a great selling point because you can't really buy anything there less than $1,500 a foot. And Seacrest Beach, you can find options now between $700 a foot even if it's an older home. So that is a very value-driven based market if you're just wanting to be in the area. Some of the communities are mostly public, so you'll have a public deeded beach access that you'll walk to in the community, like Clarion Drive, Seacrest Drive, all that strip right there, they typically share a beach access. And then right before, like on Pelican Glide Drive, they have like kind of their own beach access. So everyone kind of goes to their own public area. But like I said, if you want to be private, you got to pay a little bit more money. I still think that Seacrest is going to continue to develop. There's tons of land there, and I think people are going to see the value, and they're seeing the value now that, hey, I don't have to spend $1 million or $1.5 million on land. I can go half the price and build something that looks exactly the same. I'll put it into perspective like this. That same house in Seacrest, brand new, same size, let's say same location and everything, will probably go for around 2 to 2.5 million. If we were to do the same exact scenario in Old Seagrove or Seagrove itself, you're probably going to be paying 1.25 to about 1.8 million more for the same house. If you can get past that and say, hey, I'm someone on 30A that's looking for value, I love the area, and this isn't a deal breaker, and I want to save a few $1,000,000 for the same house somewhere else, this would be the place to be. And these do rent pretty well. So a home that's around $2 million to about $2.5 million valuation, you're looking probably at rental projections right now, realistically around like 150 to 180. 30A is not a rental market, it's mostly an appreciation based market. So you want to make sure that you get a good entry. And then you'll probably most likely be breaking even or making somewhat of a small cash on cash return where things are right now. And number 4 is a little bit, preference based. Now, I'm going to compare the two, and between these two, I'm going to let you know why it's number 4 and why I'm not choosing both, or why this one is not going to be number 5. The difference between Rosemary and Alice Beach. Alice Beach is coming up with new construction, developments. They do have a world-class amenity palace, and some of the restaurants are very private, not accessible to the public. I'm not saying that Rosemary Beach isn't the same way, but Alice Beach has taken it a step further. You'll see that there is, rental companies that are being used for those properties, or specific people. They just tend to have more of their vendors, and things are more chosen out because, that's just the way the structure of that community is. You pay an HOA fee, you pay a contribution fee, you pay a fee to go here. It's all what you get foreign money there, right? And it's being built out. I think it's starting to become overcrowded. If you want to know my honest opinion, 2 to 3 years ago, yeah, it wasn't as bad, but now all you see is just tons of construction. And I get the appeal, it's brand new, Venetian plaster, finishes that you can only imagine of, and views that are probably never gonna go away. And maybe there isn't something that is built as grand or as big. It's getting more and more crowded. Regardless if they're being rented or not, they're releasing more and more phases. And some of these phases are more quaint size units like condos or townhomes. Like not everything is a 5 to 10,000 square foot home. So it's adding more and more units. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's not becoming less private, but I feel like more people are starting to get within the gates, if you catch my drift. And then the reality is, if you're shopping there, you're not gonna really get much for under 4 million. If you're not shopping around like 6 to 10 million, your options are very limited. So that's a hefty price point. And really the sweet spot in that area, in my opinion right now, is gonna be around like the $6 to $9 million price point. And that's not for golf front, that's just if you wanna be in the community in a really nice home that's big, great footprint, and it's not as cookie cutter, I guess you could say, as some of them. Rosemary. Rosemary is my number 4. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I've chosen this community over Alice Beach. Yes, it has its own HOA, there's bylaws you do have to respect. I'm not saying one community is worse than the other. I just feel like it's a little bit more relaxed. Rosemary has been around for a lot longer period of time, and I really like their architecture. It looks a lot different. It's not just all white like Alice Beach. You know, there's actually some character to the homes. I really enjoy also their architecture because they started building out like in the 90s, early 2000s. So you can kind of see like all the different developments slowly that have been done. Whereas Alice Beach is just kind of boom, 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 everything's going all in at once and this is what we're doing. I feel like Rosemary kind of has more of a charm, and they have those really nice cobblestone streets with more of like, not palm trees like they have in Alice Beach that are sky high, but it just feels like the landscape kind of matches more of what the style of what the community is trying to go for. And it really helps the homes because a lot of the exterior space is with that vegetation. And I think it adds like another perspective or charisma to that aspect of that community. Even though that Alice Beach has that, I just think it's a little bit too all one color, white, you know, looking this way. And, you know, there's just, I feel like luxury can be expressed in a lot of different ways. And I think Rosemary kind of appeals to me for that reason. Because I'll give you an example. I've sold several homes in Rosemary, right? I sold one that was like a beach house with like a really nice New York style vibe. I sold another one that had like a New York, but also because the husband was New York and the wife was from Louisiana, so it kind of had like a Cajun-esque feel, and then the upstairs was more like New York loft type vibe. So you see, it's like a lot different, and people are kind of putting these touches. So like when you see something there, I would really go for it because they're not building anymore in Rosemary. And most likely if it hasn't been recreated via a renovation already from that owner that's selling it to you, you're gonna have to take it upon yourself. So that's the reason why I'm choosing Rosemary as my number 4. I think they also have some of the best restaurants, Paradis, Tapas, Pescado. Pescado has the best rooftop bar. I don't care what anyone says. For the view, it is pricey, but for the view, there's nothing that's better. It's gonna beat out Shunkgully's. It's gonna beat out the one in Seaside, even the one in Watercolor. If you think there's something better than that view, the panoramic view, I'm not talking about the pricing or the food, let me know in the comments below, but that's my go-to spot if I wanna have a good time or just kind of overlook all of Rosemary. Another thing that I enjoy is they have their own fitness center, yoga, and they have world-class clay tennis courts. So if you're a tennis addict, you can get professional lessons from an instructor there, which if you're professional or you're good, you won't need that. But if you want that option, they can still teach you techniques to kind of shape up your form. So that's another cool thing about Rosemary. And I also like about it too that the HOA fees aren't really that high, and they're paid quarterly. Most of the times for a $5 to $6 million home, it's probably going to be under like $2,000 to about $3,000 a quarter, depending on the house. And then most likely where that comes out to be on the monthly is about, you know, $400 to $700 a month. Just depends on the size. Sometimes a little bit more, but it's not as high as the contribution fees in Alice Beach. It's a lot lower. And then you still also get the private beach club. So that's Rosemary. And another thing I like about this area is that if you want to branch off to like Inlet Beach and try some of their restaurants at the shops of Inlet Beach, they have tons of stuff there like Amigos, Amicis, Idle Hounds. Like there's like 100 stores there where there's shopping, drinks, things to do. That's another cool thing about Rosemary, but it is expensive here. Like I said, you don't have to spend like 6 to 10 like in Alice Beach to have options. You can buy on the backside of Rosemary or towards the end of Rosemary for around like 2.5 to 3 million. And then if you want to start to get like in the central Rosemary Square, you're probably going to be around like 3 million to about 4.5 to 5. And as you start getting closer to the beach side on the streets touching above, you're probably going to start going above like, you know, 6 million or more. If I can just kind of put it into perspective, the beach prices are going to be over $1,000 a foot. The further away you are, it'll probably be about like 700 to 800 a foot. Middle, anywhere between, you know, 900 flat a foot. And this is more for turnkey properties that I'm referring to, which means they're renovated and kept up, not that it needs work. And then the ones on the water are going to go anywhere between like, you know, 1,200 or 1,600 a foot, depending on the lot size and what they offer. So that's my number 4 pick. My number 5 is going to be Inlet Beach. This is my favorite area. I'm going to be honest with you. I bought in Blue Mountain Beach myself. I'm actually starting to get a build and play, kind of build in that area because I see a lot of value there. But once I'm done, I'm going to try to purchase something in the Inlet Beach area, and this is my number 5 location. The reason it's number 5 is because it's still up and coming, but not really. They did put an underpass. Shades is right there, but the north side of Inlet Beach still needs a lot of development, which means that there's still more land than there are homes. Yes, you have builders that are doing like tract communities, which means they're doing, 20, 40, 60 homes at a time. But if you kind of want to get your piece of the pie, now would be the time, because those values are rapidly increasing in price. And I'm going to give you a perspective here. The north side of Inlet Beach, you can find a lot right now for about $350 to $450 entry, which means low. If you want a bigger size lot, like 0.25 to half an acre, you're probably going to be spending around the 500 to 800 mark, depending on where it is on the north side, right? And then if you want something that's on the water, those lots, depending on the size, can be anywhere between 800 to $1 million or $1 million plus, depending on the size. So if you're wanting to be in that area, I would consider buying some land. I think that would be a great hold, whether it's on the water or just general. Prices have really doubled in that area, and I think they're going to continue to rise and increase just because it's in a more affordable part of 30A. It's 5 minutes from Rosemary. They built an underpass. There's a lot of public beach access in that area, and you're kind of like in the in-between point between 30A and Panama City Beach. So if you're coming in from ECP Airport, which is Panama City Beach Airport, it's a short ride, or whether you're coming down 79 or 331, kind of all sweeps in. And it's kind of like a good median for travel. But I also want to mention this. Inlet Beach is also close to parks and canoeing and things to do, which is all public to the access. And then some of the communities themselves, obviously they give public pools, and they even have some areas where you can dump off your canoe, depending on the HOA. I want to mention this, that north area, so above 98 is going to be the most affordable. You can certainly find a home around like 600,000 to 900,000 in my opinion. But if you're kind of wanting to build your own, I would start to pull the trigger, or if you find something that meets those specifications, because I think the resale value will be there. Now what they're doing on the south side of 98, that area has become so expensive, and there's homes there, and this is a non-HOA community. This is just a beach house. This is way more expensive even than the west side, where I mentioned in Shungolian there's things to do. I think it's just because it's next to Rosemary, and they know over a period of time it's going to start demanding prices slowly. So golf front homes there are around 10 to 15 million. Land sells for around 4 to 6 million in that area for golf front lots. You can start to see that the money from Rosemary is slowly starting to spill into Inlet Beach, and you can slowly start to see that people that had a lot of money on 30A that sold their investments, they rolled it into these more affordable areas or up and coming areas. So Inlet Beach for me is going to be a great investment, long-term hold, maybe even a primary. It's going to be a good mix of things, because that's where all the money and attention is going to be coming to. So these are my top 5 areas on 30A that I highly recommend that you look into. If you want to connect with me, you can always reach out. It's Ricardo Hidalgo, leader of the Emerald Coast Group, Coldwell Banker Realty. I can post my information below, or you can just click on my links and we can connect via YouTube.